Jump scare.
Bitch, is you blind?
I'm back, and I have yet another Japanese drama that I feel like talking about. This one, however, is my favorite Japanese drama, like, of all time. I just haven't found another one that beats it. It's not that it's, like, the most well-produced and directed or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. There's just a charm to it that I love. And every single time I watch it, it's funny, it's cute, like, it just... And it made me fall in love with Haruma Miura. So, you may also fall in love with him through this show. Okay. Anyway, so this show is called Last Cinderella. Okay, came out in 2013, quite some time ago at this point. I didn't realize how long ago that was. And it scares me. Anyway, so it came out in 2013. It's 11 episodes that are like an hour each. And it's just the most charming show. And it's not like your stereotypical like Cinderella remakes or anything like that. So yeah. It's much more enjoyable because we have one too many of these remakes of a Cinderella story and I'm tired of it. This one is not quite as cliche. So let's do a synopsis. The story revolves around Sakura, who is a 39-year-old woman and the vice manager at a beauty salon. Now, she makes her customers beautiful for a living, but she's not so concerned about that for herself. Now, that being said, her 40th birthday is approaching, and as it approaches, she's starting to take a little bit of an inventory of her life. And she realizes that she wants a companion, you know? She wants a family one day, and she obviously needs to take the step to do that. And the perfect opportunity comes along when she gets invited to a mixer party. Now, at this party, she ends up meeting Hirato. Now, Hirato is quite a bit younger than her, 15 years to be exact, and his passion is BMX bikes, and he plans on going pro one day. Now, she's attracted to him, and he is very consistently pursuing her, but it also seems like he's hiding something. Now, will they be able to get past this age gap? And also, what is Hiroto hiding? So that's my quick little synopsis on the story. Now, let's get into our main cast of characters. Now, there's quite a few characters, I guess, in this show, but it's okay, it won't be that difficult. So we have Sakura, first and foremost, our main girl, our Cinderella. Then we have Hirato, who is our prince, or I guess one of our princes? You'll see. We have Tachibana. Well, his first name is Rintaro, but that don't suit him, so I'm not calling him by his first name, okay? We're doing last names for him, specifically. Tachibana, okay? Then we have Chiyoko, who everyone in the show kind of calls her Choco-chan, so I might end up calling her that, but her name is Chiyoko. Then we have Sakura's two best friends, my girl Shima. That's my girl, don't say nothing about her. And then we have Miki, who is too good for everybody. She's too good for everybody, and that's all you need to know about her. Then we have Miki's husband, who I'm just going to be calling Miki's husband because that's all he deserves. And we have Kenichi, who everyone kind of calls him Ken-chan, so I might call him that too. Alright? I bring him up mainly because he owns a restaurant that is constantly frequented throughout the whole show, so he's kind of important, I guess, in that sense. And then we have Momo, who's not super important, but I will end up bringing her up a couple times, so yeah. That's like the main people that we'll be dealing with. And then a few other names here and there might get thrown in, so yeah. This drama is also an age gap drama, as you might have figured out from my little synopsis, but it's also a romance and a comedy. It's really funny. And I think overall it's quite lighthearted. So, yeah. Let's get into it. This is my favorite show, so I hope you like it too. We start off with Sakura waking up from a not very graceful looking slumber, and she gets up out of bed after her hundreds of alarm clocks go off, very obnoxiously. She stumbles to the bathroom, passing like a whole case of empty beer bottles. You know, her house is a mess. You can kind of see the sort of bachelorette lifestyle she's been living. And when she finally gets to the bathroom and washes her face and stuff, she finds the worst thing a woman could find. A hair on her chin. Now, this is super common for women, so... But anyway, it's horrendous, you know? I guess it's ramping up to something here, just stick with me. So she finds this hair on her chin, she plucks it out, and I guess this girl has never used tweezers before because she, like, nicks herself. Anyway. Then we see her continue on what I assume is her regular morning schedule. She throws on a very, ill-fitting, comfortable, I guess, outfit. Throws her hair up in a messy claw clip, which is not very cute and kind of annoying because she's a hairstylist for a living, so the fact that she never does her hair, like, girl, come on, you have the skills. Anyway, we see her go to, like, eat breakfast, and the only woman in that place is her. And she's next to a whole bunch of, like, middle-aged men who are also on their way to work, and again, we're ramping up to something. Then she stops by the convenience store, gets one of those, like, energy drink shots, and she drinks it like how the old man is drinking it next to her. So we're supposed to get the idea that she's more of a middle-aged man rather than a middle-aged woman. I don't know how I feel about that comparison, but let's move on. So she gets to work, and she works at this salon called Happy Go Lucky. Kind of cute. It's a cute little shop too. It's like, I don't know, it has that very 2013 to like 15 aesthetic, you know what I'm saying? So she takes one of her clients, which is this older woman, and maybe she hasn't seen her in a bit, and she asks Sakura, like, are you married yet? Like, what's the deal? What's going on there? You got a man's? What's happening? And Sakura kind of, like, brushes it off. She's like, oh no, like, I'm focused on my career. You know, this is my husband right now. But it does seem like she's more so putting up a front, and that's not necessarily the case. It's not that she doesn't want, you know, a companion. It's just that she doesn't have one right now. You feel me? Then this guy shows up. This guy being Tachibana. Now, he hasn't been back home in a while, so Sakura is not having it. She's like, why is this man here? And you automatically get the vibe that they fight a lot. They're friends, old friends, that used to actually work together back when they were both starting out their careers, and Tachibana's career kind of took off way more than hers, so that probably also adds fuel to the fire. But apparently, he's here to take over a position that Sakura has been wanting for so many years, and she thought she was like this close to getting it until he shows up. Now, Tachibana is also kind of like mean to her. He teases her, but like the things that he says are like legitimately mean. He calls her like an old man. He talks about how her career hasn't taken off the way his has, and I'm just like,
You need to leave!
Simmer down. Like, no business doing that, especially because it's clear that they haven't seen each other in like a number of years. So for him to like, you know what I'm saying? Just rude. The audacity is crazy. So obviously Sakura was not aware of him coming. Nobody informed her, so it makes it even worse. So then we meet Sakura's two besties, Shima and Miki. Now, Shima's supposed to be this single, sexy, experienced woman. Like, she can get any guy that she wants like this. You feel me? Like, that's the vibe. Whereas Miki is a wife and a mother, and she's very sweet and kind and loyal. They both are. So, yeah. So they're at the bathhouse, the three of them together, and Sakura's kind of dishing out the tea about her shitty week. of how Tachibana's back and how she's probably not going to get the manager position, and how she's kind of taking a look at her life now that she's almost 40 and she's like, I don't got a man, my career's not where I thought it would be, and that kind of thing. And through their conversation, we also find out that Sakura hasn't been in a relationship in like 10 years. It's been a while. So their very uplifting, girly conversation is very much contrasted by Tachibana visiting Ken-chan, his old friend, and also one of his co-workers is with him. They're all guys, is the point. And they're having a very guy conversation that is very driven by Tachibana being very misogynistic. Love that for him.
What she deserves.
And he's basically, I'm like, I don't even know what prompted this conversation with Tachibana, but he's basically saying how as a woman gets older, she loses her femininity and loses her value. And I was like, what in the 2024 male podcaster?
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
Okay, now it is side plot time. So I'm gonna talk about the side plots here a little bit because unlike most shows, I feel like for most shows I don't really care about the side characters and their plot lines, but this one is actually good. I think it's actually really good, and it revolves around Sakura's friends. That's like the side plot. And because I like those two, the side plot eats, okay? So to start off this side plot, so Miki is having intimacy issues with her husband. Now, every time for like the past year or 6 months or something like that, she tries to get spicy with him, he shuts her down. Now, she doesn't suspect anything yet or anything like that, but she just doesn't really, you know, she's like, am I losing my like charm? Like, what's going on? My husband is just... Anyway, but this becomes worse when her mother-in-law comes into town unannounced for a visit. A visit would imply that she's staying there for like a day or two. This woman stays there for way too long. And her mother-in-law is so judgmental of her, from the way she parents to the way she cooks, the way she takes care of her husband, who's obviously a mama's boy, and it's just like, oh my god. And to make it worse, her husband doesn't stand up for her when her mother-in-law is making these criticisms, which is just... that is a sentence for divorce, in my opinion. Like, if you're not gonna defend me against your mother, we can't be together. Come on now. Especially because Miki, truly, like, we see her, she's such a good mother, she's such a good wife, she's a good cook, like, she's, you know what I mean? She's kind of like the perfect housewife. Anyway, so that's the start of our little side plot. Okay, let's get back to the main situation. So, we get introduced to yet another character, Choco-chan. I love that. I like that people call her that. It's so cute. Okay, anyway, so she's a customer at the salon, and she's there because Tachibana is back in town. Now, it's very clear that she has a crush on him, and during her appointment, him and Sakura are like bickering the whole time, and you know, you really only bicker with people that you're super close to, so she feels threatened by Sakura, that there might be something going on between them, and she doesn't like that because she's into Tachibana. So, to kind of break up the fighting and maybe ensure that Sakura will not be near Tachibana for much longer, she decides to invite her to a mixer party that is happening at the Star Express Hotel on Sunday night. Now, Sakura, like I said, she's been reevaluating her life, and she's kind of like, a mixer party? Well, that's perfect, because I'm trying to meet somebody, I'm trying to get a companion. So she agrees, as long as she can bring her friends, obviously. And Choco-chan's like, yeah, bring whoever you want, like, just make sure you show up, okay? So, lastly, we meet Hiroto. Now, his introduction is, it's something. So we meet him, and he is butt naked in bed with some girl. The girl is Momo. And obviously they just got done being spicy. And he gets a phone call. His phone rings and he pushes this girl off him so fast to go pick up his phone, which I guess kind of shows the dynamic of whoever's calling him is clearly more important than the girl that he's currently laying with. Anyway, he answers the phone and it's Choco-chan. We don't know what the connection is here yet, but Choco-chan calls him and asks him for a favor. Now, we don't know what the favor is yet, but clearly it seems like Choco-chan is someone who's maybe important to him. So, it's the day of the mixer, and Sakura is looking for something to wear. And I guess because my girl doesn't dress up very much, she somehow settles on office worker attire to go to a mixer party. Anyway, it's the morning, so she's, I guess, planning to go straight after work. That's why she's getting dressed in the morning. And she goes to work, but on her way, it's raining, and then she sees the old woman, like her customer from before, and she's carrying a ball, presumably for her grandchildren, and the ball slips out of her hand and starts rolling down the hill. And Sakura sees this and decides to help out because that's the kind of person she is. Runs down the hill in the rain to get the ball, which means her outfit is ruined. So that sucks. Now this old woman feels bad about the whole situation, so she ends up showing up at Sakura's work a little bit later to give her an outfit to wear. This would be very sweet if, I mean, it is very sweet, but the outfit is old lady's clothes. This outfit is very ugly, and yeah. Sakura doesn't have anything else to wear, and she feels grateful, so she ends up wearing it. Sakura meets Miki and Shima at the party at the hotel, and she shows up in the horrendous outfit, and her hair's also, I'm like, you're a hairstylist. Why does your hair look like that? This girl has like a side bun. I don't know what she was thinking, but anyway. So I guess Miki didn't exactly understand what this party was, like, you know what I'm saying? So when she realizes it's a mixer party, she's like, girl, I'm married. And she's like, well, you don't have to like interact with people, you know, just hang out. Which she does. So Shima focuses on the food because they have a delightful spread. This girl even asks if she can take some of it home in Tupperware. And I'm like, if that ain't me. Anyway, so she focuses on the food, whereas my girl Shima is looking for men to mesmerize, which is not difficult for her because pretty much as soon as she walks in the room, a whole bunch of guys like flock over to her. So yeah. And Sakura focuses on the free champagne. Which again, girl, same, because this is like a bougie hotel that they're at, so you know everything here is good, okay? So the party's just getting started, and this is when we learn what Choco-chan's plan is. So Hirato shows up, looking very good. It's not like he looks special, like he just threw on a blazer, but he looked good. Anyway, Choco-chan wants him to basically seduce Sakura. She wants him to do this so that Sakura will fall for him and stay away from Tachibana. But as soon as Hirato shows up, he looks at Sakura and is thoroughly confused as to why Choco-chan feels threatened by her, because she's dressed like an old woman. She's like halfway drunk already, and he's just like, really? Like, you need me to keep this girl away from some guy that you want? Because Choco-chan is like the beauty standard of Japan. She should have zero trouble getting whoever she wants, is Hirato's point. Sakura has gotten pretty drunk at this point, just off the free champagne. Now, I guess she got a room at the hotel for the night, which makes sense, I guess. So she's climbing down these grand stairs, and she's not very used to wearing heels, so plus she's drunk. And the heels are annoying her, so she takes off one of the shoes and like throws it in frustration and continues her way down. Then we see our prince pick up her heel and go over to her, bend down on one knee to slip her shoe back on, ever so graceful. I mean, she looks a mess, but he looks very graceful. And she even, you know, looks at him as if he is a prince. Back to our side plot. So my girl Shima, she hooks up with some guy in the bathroom, and apparently it was a terrible hookup. She was not into it. She was like, what was that? No effort put in. So she's kind of like over it or whatever, and she, I guess, also has a room at the hotel, so she's gonna check in at the front desk. And as she's checking in, this guy who looks 12 and 45 at the same time somehow, he's looking for his wife, who is supposed to be at a PTA meeting at this hotel. But Shima is kind of looking at him like, not typically my type, but I think I can work with this. So she finesses him into her room by telling him that she knows where the PTA meeting is. He's an idiot, because why would you go up to a hotel room for a PTA meeting? Because if there was a PTA meeting happening, it'd be in like a conference room or something at the hotel. Anyway, she finesses him in there to try and get some spicy time. Now, she knows he's married because she heard the conversation, but she doesn't care. That's not her concern. To be fair, it is his responsibility to be faithful to his wife and not hers. So if he's going to engage in those acts with her, that is his fault, not hers.
And
So it's the morning, and we see Sakura wake up in these beautiful satin sheets that are just white and fluffy, and the sun is coming through the windows, and she's in this bougie hotel room, you know what I'm saying? And next to her is a young, hot, half-naked guy. And obviously she has no idea who this dude is, does not remember him from last night, but is examining his very beautiful face as he sleeps. And probably because she's leaning over him and breathing on him, he starts to wake up, which scares her and makes her comically jump out of the bed. I'm like, I don't know how she got that much height when she jumped out of the bed, but anyway. She then realizes that she's very naked and that her clothes are all over the floor, and he's half naked, and he wakes up like, oh, good morning. And he's rather sweet and kind of charming. He's very like bubbly, which is really cute. I guess it's an act because he's supposed to be finessing her into liking him. So in his very charming way, he tells her what happened last night, and basically it's that they hooked up. Which should be obvious considering the nakedness of them both. Now, she doesn't remember anything, so why she's not freaking out, I have no idea. She should be freaking out, especially for like a woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, she was belligerently drunk, she wakes up with some random guy. Like, you'd figure she'd be more concerned, but I guess she's not, because she realizes that he's young and hot, and she pulled that at the age of almost 40. He says that he doesn't want it to just be like a one-time thing, that he actually wants to date her, and that is the start of a love story. So after her spicy night with Hiroto, she goes home, and my girl's doing a walk of shame that no one realizes. Like, she's acting so paranoid that people like know what she did last night or something, when honestly everyone's just trying to get to work. Like, no one cares. But anywho, she gets home and someone seems to be moving in next door. And she realizes that it's Tachibana. Because of course it is. Who else would be moving in next door to her? And she ends up helping him move in. Very kind of her, because he is rude as hell from the start. But she then expects something in return. She's like, okay, well, it's about lunchtime, and I've been helping you move in all morning, so I think you owe me a meal. So they go to Ken-chan's place to eat lunch. While they're eating lunch, she ends up telling Tachibana a little bit more about her night, because of course he's trying to make fun of her. And, you know, she's like, oh yeah, I hooked up with this 24-year-old, you know what I'm saying? And Tachibana's like, okay, well, he must be ugly. But in the midst of her bragging to Tachibana, she gets a call from none other than Hiroto. So Hiroto calls her and, you know, is trying to yet again convince her to date him, which is kind of cute. And she's trying to act all like cute on the phone in front of Tachibana. But she does reject him yet again because she just thinks the age gap between them is way too big, considering he's 24 and she's almost 40. However, despite that, the next day when she goes to work in the morning, Hiroto is waiting for her outside. Which is kind of crazy because I'm like, I mean, we know that he knows where she works because of Choko-chan, but she's kind of like, how do you get here? Anyway, but he's there, and she of course went to work with Tachibana because they live next to each other and work at the same place. So she's shocked to see him. She's like, oh my god, Hiroto? And Tachibana's like, this the guy you hooked up with? And he looks a little bit shook because he was thinking that the guy that she hooked up with was probably gonna be ugly and like, you know, like she can't pull a hot guy. So he's rather surprised to see this man who looks as he does. In Hiroto's adorable, cute way, he tries to yet again convince her to date him. And again, she's kind of like the age gap thing, you know what I mean? But he assures her that age is nothing but a number and that it really shouldn't matter when it comes to love. Which I think is crazy that he's even trying to throw the L word out there because he just met her like a day ago. Like 2 days ago, you know what I mean? But again, she rejects him, and he just realizes that this is gonna be a lot harder than he thought. Despite her rejections, Hiroto does not back off. Now, instead of showing up at her work constantly or something like that, he instead decides to spam her with text messages that are really sweet and cute to like make sure that he's still on her mind and thinking of him. And despite what Sakura says, she kind of can't help but be charmed by his adorable text messages and the idea that he wants to be with her this bad. Now, I will say, if he was ugly, this would be a whole other story. It would be very creepy of him to continuously do this, and yeah, but pretty people seem to just have it better, right? Also, this show is not that serious. This show is just not that serious to even be thinking about these kind of things, so let's move on. So Hiroto goes to see Choko-chan at her place, and it's this beautiful house in like an upper middle class neighborhood. Very nice house, and he's kind of just complaining a little bit about how he thought this was going to be a lot easier than what it's turning out to be to get Sakura to date him. But he likes the challenge, so you know. Also, he's getting paid for it. And as they're talking, he's kind of like, I still don't really get why you need me to even do this in the first place. Like, it doesn't really seem like Sakura's a obstacle, if you will. But she says that not only does she not want Tachibana to get hurt like he did in his last relationship, but she wants to be with Tachibana, and she doesn't want anybody to interfere with that, not even Sakura. Now, their conversation gets swiftly interrupted when Choko-chan's mother walks in, and she looks surprised to see Hiroto there, and Hiroto, even though he was very lax when it was just him and Choko-chan, now that the mom is there, he feels like he stiffens up. Now, when he's in the driveway, getting onto his bike, he sees this man in the driveway who looks very displeased to see him. And through context clues, you realize, oh, this man's his father, huh? Now, we don't know why they don't like each other, but it's very clear that they don't like each other. So it's been a few days since Hiroto last showed up to Sakura's work, and he decides to show up again, and she's surprised to see him there. And he's like, I want to get some drinks with you, like, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy. And she's kind of like, I mean, I have plans with my friends. And he's like, come on, please. She's like, okay, I'll go out and have like one drink with you, and then I'll go hang out with my friend. He takes her to like this bar that I guess he goes to often, and it's a younger crowd, you know, everyone there's kind of like around his age, so she kind of already feels a little bit uncomfortable. And even more so when some friends of his show up that he hasn't seen in a while, and you know, they're kind of like, oh, who's this? Like your older sister or something? And he's like, no, he's very clear about who she is to him. He doesn't try and beat around the bush and be like, oh, actually, like he doesn't try and make excuses, you know? He's like, oh no, this is like the girl I'm trying to get to date me. And everybody's really cool about it, but I guess it still kind of makes her feel a little uncomfortable. And at the end of the night, when they're done with their drinks, you know, she does say that she's still, you know, kind of standing strong on the whole not wanting to date him thing, unfortunately. And that is where we leave that story, so that we can talk about the side story. So my girl Shima meets up with Miki's husband again. Again, she doesn't know that this is Miki's husband yet. So they meet again, and we find out that that night that they met at the hotel, they didn't actually hook up. Why? Because Miki's husband can't get it up. So he has ED, he has erectile dysfunction, alright? And so, but he's attracted to Shima, and so he's thinking like, maybe he can get it up with her again, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Shima kind of almost sees it as like this challenge. She's kind of like, you know what I mean? She's like, if anyone's gonna be able to do it, it's gonna be me. So now we're back in present day where Sakura's gonna go meet with the girls, and they're gonna meet at Miki's house. So Shima's already there, and they're waiting for Sakura because Sakura's on the date or getting drinks with Hiroto, like we just talked about. While they're at Miki's place, you know, they're just chatting away, her and Shima, blah blah blah. Miki's asking Shima about the married guy that she's dating, and you know, Shima's telling her about it. And then Miki's husband comes home, and oof, that is awkward because obviously Miki wants to introduce her husband to her best friend, and it's real awkward when they realize who each other is. Now, Miki's husband's willing to continue this relationship, but because Miki is a good friend, she's like, absolutely not. Not only that, but Miki can never find out about this because she is my best friend, and I don't want her to know. Because obviously if she knew who he was, she would have never done this in the first place. So I respect my girl for that. Her husband is trash otherwise. Moving on. So instead of going to hang out with Shima and Miki, she ends up needing to let off some steam and going to the batting cage, where she meets Tachibana. Tachibana is at the batting cages. He's like a huge baseball fan. So of course he's there. And he's kind of asking like, oh, why are you here, you know? And she ends up telling him about how she's been feeling lately and how, you know, Hiroto wants to date her, but she doesn't want to because the age gap thing, it's like he's too young. And instead of being mean to her for once, he actually gives her some good advice, and he's like, look, if he likes you and he's interested, there's no harm in dating him and like trying it out, you know what I mean? So she decides after that conversation with Tachibana to give Hiroto a chance. So the two set up a date, and they go to like this, I guess, sports center kind of thing, and they play a whole bunch of sports, which I was like, that's kind of like a cute, fun date. Like, they bowl, they play tennis, and they play basketball, and like, you can tell that even though Hiroto is supposed to be like fulfilling this plan or whatever, you can tell that he's like genuinely enjoying himself with her. While they're walking through like the park, it's cherry blossom season, okay? So they're standing under this giant cherry blossom tree, and they're kind of having a moment, and Hiroto kisses her, their first kiss, and it's actually really cute. Now, at this point, we're not quite sure how Hiroto is feeling about her. Like, actually, is this all part of his act? Is it genuine? It's sort of hard to tell at first, but I will say in that moment, I do think is the start of him really liking her. So we see Choko-chan in her bedroom, and she has this projection going on her wall of photos of Tachibana, which is just confirming that she clearly has an unhealthy obsession with him. Like, it's giving Criminal Minds. Like, what are we doing here, girl? Anyway, so Hiroto wants to go on yet another date with Sakura, and he suggests that they have a stay-at-home date, specifically her home. Now our girl is very messy. Alright, she's lived in that apartment for 5 years and I don't think she's ever cleaned it ever. But he wants to like go to her place and like taste her cooking. She can't cook. So she's like, yeah, okay, cool, sounds fine. So she obviously goes home and like tries to clean her place. It literally looks like she's moving out because of how much stuff she has. She ends up shoving most of it in her closet anyway, so whatever. And she recruits Ken-chan to teach her how to cook something. Now, while Sakura is doing all this prep work for her date, we see Hiroto hooking up with Momo again. So clearly these two are hookup buddies because they don't seem to do anything else together. Side plot time. So while Miki is at home getting harassed on a daily basis by her mother-in-law, her husband is out at the gym that Shima works at. Shima is a like yoga instructor at this gym. And he's there exercising, trying to get with Shima. And she's, you know, obviously rejecting him, and he's like, no, I want your help with my ED situation. And she's like, okay, I don't know how I can help you with that, really. See, he wants to hook up with her, but she doesn't want to do that for obvious reasons. But she is willing to help him with his situation. Which I'm like, girl, just send him to the doctor and call it a day. But in her mind, I guess she's helping her bestie out here because she knows the intimacy issues they've been having, and now she knows why they've been having them. So I guess in her mind, she's kind of helping out her friend. I don't know how she jumped through those hoops to make that shit make sense, but okay. So she kind of becomes his, like, therapist. Anyway, back to the main plot for now. After Sakura has been doing all this prep work for their date, she goes to the skate park to see Hiroto. Now, she's never been there before, but she decides to show up because he does mention that she can if she wants. And she does, and she happens to catch him there with Momo, who gives him a kiss. Now, she had a bit of an argument with Momo on her way to the skate park, but she doesn't know who she is. On her way home, she runs into Tachibana and a few of her other co-workers who are like scrambling around the street trying to hand out business cards, and she's like, what's going on? Because as far as she knows, Tachibana has like this hairstyling competition thing, but the model that he originally had dropped out. She got sick or something, I don't know. And so he needs to try and find another model really quick because this competition is like in like an hour or so. And so they're scrambling, and Sakura, being the kind of girl she is helping out, like handing out business cards, explaining the situation to people. And then she realizes, Momo would be the perfect fit. Which is not good because one, she just saw this girl kissing the guy that she's dating, and two, she already got off to a bad start with her early on when they had a bit of a fight in front of the convenience store. So this isn't gonna go well. But she calls up Hiroto, who she's missing their date right now, and he was trying to call her and she wasn't picking up. So she's calling Hiroto to bring this girl, and he has no idea how she even knows her, but he brings her, and the worst thing possible happens. Ugh, I'm like, Momo, girl, you are so petty. Anyway, Momo agrees to be the hair model if Sakura gets on her hands and knees and begs her for forgiveness.
I can't.
Now, Hiroto has no idea what this whole forgiveness thing is about. He doesn't know how they know each other. Like, he's so confused and doesn't understand the situation at all. But Sakura does it because she's trying to help out her friend Tachibana. So she gets on her hands and knees and begs, and Momo's like, okay, cool, and she's happy to get a new hairstyle. Now, Hiroto is obviously confused about the whole situation, and he takes her home. They were supposed to be having their at-home date anyway. And because the food that she bought spoiled while it was sitting outside for hours, as she was trying to hand out business cards and stuff, Hiroto decides to cook them something simple with whatever she has in her fridge. Which is like really cute, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he doesn't know why she's angry or anything like that yet. But yeah, he cooks them like fried rice or something like that. And she's very impressed with him. And despite his sweetness, she can't stop thinking about seeing him kiss Momo. So she does end up bringing it up to him and telling him, and this man is so shook that he's kind of like frozen. Like, you can tell he just doesn't even know what to say.
Miss Jackson.
And because he's sitting there, like, in silence, Sakura starts making excuses for him, like, oh, well, you know, we're not, like, official or anything like that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, don't make excuses for him. He does tell her the truth and says basically that him and Momo have kind of been in this weird relationship where they can't agree on what their relationship even is, and that now that he's with her, he will end things with Momo, which is good enough for Sakura. And honestly, I think he was really shocked and didn't know what to say when she first brought it up, because from what we've seen so far, he doesn't have a very good relationship with his family, who seem to be like the main people in his life, and they don't seem to see him in a very good light, and we're not sure why yet, but yeah. So I think despite the whole like plan thing, I don't think that's what he's concerned about. I think he genuinely doesn't want Sakura to see him as a bad person. So we find out that Tachibana wins the competition. Yay for him, his career keeps skyrocketing. Anyway, and because Choka-chan is obsessed with him, of course she was at the competition and saw him win, and so while he's on his way home, she runs into him and decides to throw caution to the wind and kisses him. Very unexpected. Now, he's also oblivious to her feelings for him, so this shocks him. Sakura is on her way out of a convenience store, and she seems a little anxious as to whatever she bought, and she runs into Tachibana because they live in the same apartment complex, they live in the same area, so obviously they're gonna run into each other, right? But when she does, she's like super frantic and like scared about it, and so he jokes with her that she was so startled by his presence because she must be buying condoms. She's all embarrassed. She's like, no, that's not what it is, blah, blah, blah. As they're arguing in the elevator, she's like looking in her pockets for her keys, and she's just like taking everything out of her pockets, putting it in her hand, and he notices in her hand is a pregnancy test. And he's like, what is that? And she's like, oh, and she's all embarrassed, and then she ends up telling him like, I think I could be pregnant, and he's like, how old are you? Why weren't you using protection when you hooked up with him? And she's like, I was drunk. So obviously she thinks she got pregnant during her spicy night with Hiruto at the mixer party. So of course Tachibana's like, well, what are you gonna do about it if you are pregnant with this 24-year-old child? And obviously she never thought she'd be in this situation before, so she has not thought about it. And, you know, she's dating him, but it's still really new. On top of that, he's really young and has these dreams and aspirations, and she wouldn't want to feel like she's trapping him or something, so she has no idea what she's gonna do. But she decides to hold off on taking the pregnancy test until she talks to Hiruto. Thus, they meet up for lunch the next day, and she kind of tries to sneakily ask him, like, what he thinks about children. And, you know, he says that he likes kids, which this makes her very happy considering that she could be pregnant. So Sakura is supposed to be going on this like company work trip, but she gets sick and she has a fever and she's not feeling well. And she still thinks that she might be pregnant. So all of this, she's not going to any onsen, okay? Now, because Tachibana lives right next to her and finds out that she's sick and whatever, he takes her to the doctor, gets her some medicine, and then goes on the company retreat. Her being sick and all gives her a lot of time to think about this whole pregnancy thing and what she will do if she's actually pregnant and stuff. Thus, when Tachibana gets back from the retreat, she finally is ready to take this pregnancy test, and she needs some emotional support, which would be Tachibana. And so she's too scared to look at the results, so Tachibana looks for her, and it is negative. She's not pregnant. Now, she should be like jumping for joy and really excited about that fact, but I guess because she had a couple of days to bounce around the idea of having kids with Hiruto, she's like a little bit disappointed that she's not pregnant. But I guess now she doesn't actually have to tell Hiruto that, you know, any of that was happening. And she moves on with her day. Sakura's hanging out with the girls, and they're like at her salon getting their nails done and that kind of thing. And as they're talking, Shima's like, you've been dating Hiroto for a while now, and we still haven't met him. Like, we gotta set something up. The girls want to know. So she decides to call him right then and there. And we as the audience see that he is in Momo's bed again.
Electric chair.
What happened to the whole I'm gonna work things out with her and break up with her? But anyway, Sakura asks him to meet her friends, and he's down. He's like, yeah, okay, cool. And he then also tells her, in that same breath, that he has worked things out with Momo and broke things off with her. Now, to be fair, when he hangs up with Sakura, he does tell Momo that, like, this situation is done. And she doesn't really believe him because clearly this man is laid up in her bed multiple times a week. So it's understandable that she doesn't believe it, but anywho. So later, Sakura goes to meet up with Hiroto at the skate park, and he's happy to see her because I guess because she's been sick and stuff, he hasn't seen her in a few days. And he asks her about the retreat, and she ends up telling him that she didn't end up going because she was sick, which is news to him because he didn't know that she was sick, and he's kind of like, well, why didn't you tell me? Like, I could have taken care of you, like that kind of thing. And she's like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. Like, Tachibana took me to the doctor and got me medicine. And this is the first time we see jealousy from Hiroto. Hiroto doesn't like this whole Tachibana thing, okay? He tells her straight up that he doesn't want to hear about these other men, specifically Tachibana. You know, it makes him jealous. And if she wants him to feel secure in their relationship, then she'll make an effort to not be around Tachibana as much. Which I don't know how that's gonna work when they live next to each other and work together. But we'll see. When Hiroto says this, it seems like he's genuine about it. Like he's actually jealous. So it seems like this whole pretending thing is starting to come to an end. Side plot time. So our girl Miki is getting very much suspicious of her husband when she's about to do his laundry and finds receipts from a cafe that he keeps frequenting and getting 2 drinks every time, which is kind of odd, but you know, could be for his work or business or whatever. But then she finds a red mark on his shirt and she's like, is this lipstick? So now, before she had faith in him, and now she's starting to be like, is he cheating on me? Which is fair. Now, we as the audience see how he gets this red mark on his shirt, and it's actually because he went over to a client's house, and that client's child was playing with markers and stuff, and marked his shirt with red. Evil children. Now it's the night that Hiroto is going to meet Sakura's friends for the first time, right? Very important night. He's there to make a good impression. And so of course they're gonna meet up at Ken-chan's restaurant because no one goes anywhere else in town. Which I guess is fair because they're all friends, so they're helping out their friend's business, I guess. Now Hiroto shows up, and just as he's about to walk into the restaurant with a bouquet of flowers for his girl, he gets a call from Choco-chan. And Choco-chan sounds drunk. She's being kind of cryptic and suggesting that she's going to hurt herself if he doesn't show up. So of course he drops everything, literally, and runs to wherever she is. So she's at some hotel for whatever reason, and she's drinking an entire bottle of wine by herself. Choco-chan is upset because she saw Sakura and Tachibana again looking very friendly, probably because they're friends, but she just thinks that there's more going on, so she's very upset. And Hiroto is trying to comfort her and diffuse the situation, especially because he's missing a very important date for this. But Choco-chan is just inconsolable. Unconsolable? Inconsolable. You get the idea. And she starts yelling at Hiroto, saying that it's his fault, that everything is his fault. Now, at first it seems like maybe she's talking about the fact that he hasn't been able to, you know, rein in Sakura for himself yet, or whatever, but it seems like there's more to it. Choco-chan then takes off her shawl and reveals this huge burn scar on her back. It covers like half of her back. And that seems to be the big insecurity of hers. And it seems that it's Hiruto's fault, somehow. We're not exactly sure how. As she's frantically yelling at him, he tries to calm her down as he starts to get emotional himself. And it's like kind of like a heartbreaking scene because you can tell he feels horrible, but also you realize because of how bad he feels about all this, we can understand why he does anything for Choko-chan. Sakura gets home from her failed date with Hiruto, and she is met with a unpleasant, I think, surprise from her younger brother. Now, her younger brother apparently ran away from home and is going to try and make it in the big city with his girlfriend. Now, they're not at Sakura's for very long when Hiruto shows up, and obviously Sakura hasn't told her family about him yet, so when Hiruto shows up at her place, her brother's like, "Who is this guy? Like, who is this young man dating my sister?" Because I believe Hiruto's even younger than her younger brother, so it's a bit awkward. But nonetheless, Sakura's brother takes this as a good opportunity to grill him and be like, "What are your intentions with my sister? Are you after her money?" Which I'm like, obviously Sakura is well off and can take care of herself with what she makes, but I'm like, it's not like she's rich or something. Also, it seems like when they do go on dates and stuff, it does seem like he's the one who pays. So I'm like, he's not broke himself. Like, he does have a job and stuff, so anyway. But, Hiruto wins over her brother rather quickly after they play a few games and hang out a bit and talk and all of that. So Hiruto ends up spending the night along with Sakura's brother and his girlfriend. And he tells Sakura that he's kind of jealous of the dynamic that she has with her brother and their closeness because he doesn't have a relationship like that with his siblings. Speaking of Hiruto's siblings, Choko-chan hasn't seen Tachibana since she kissed him that night, and so she decides to go see him to apologize for that, considering it was out of the blue and I guess not consensual, right? And she apologizes with baseball game tickets because he loves baseball. And she gives him 2 tickets, or she gives him a ticket, and he's super excited. He's like, lit, like I got something out of that. And he shows up to watch the game, and she ends up showing up as well, and he is very confused.
Jump scare. Choko-chan.
Konnichiwa.
So she shows up and they watch the game together and he feels a little awkward about it, since this is a makeshift date that she finessed him into. But afterwards they go to Ken-chan's place for lunch, and when they show up, Sakura and Hiruto are there. This is kind of, I guess, the first time that we're realizing that nobody knows that these two are siblings. No one has any idea. I don't know why their relation is such a secret, but it is. Now, Choko-chan, as they're eating lunch, she expresses like what a good time she had with Tachibana, and like she's like, "When's our next date?" And he's like, "This was a date." And honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, I kind of respect Choko-chan for kind of taking the reins and like really putting herself out there. But Tachibana does reject her because the age gap is just too big for him, which I think is hilarious because he is literally the one that convinced Sakura to date Hiruto despite the age gap. And of course Choko-chan thinks that it's because Tachibana must be in love with Sakura, which is why he won't give her a chance. It is the day of Hiruto's tournament competition BMX thing that he's been practicing for the entire time thus far. So of course Sakura shows up in support with her girlfriends. Okay, Shima and Miki are also there to support him. And Sakura is very nervous. She's like way more nervous than he probably is, which is kind of cute because it just shows how much she cares about him and she's like actually interested in his passion and supporting him in that. So yeah, she's so nervous that she's like, okay, I gotta find a bathroom before the competition starts. So as Sakura is looking for the bathroom, she sees her mans getting beat up by like these guys that are apparently there on behalf of Momo to defend her honor or something, because Hiruto broke things off with her. Which is so pathetic. I'm like, really? Like, you need this many guys to jump him? Please. But our girl Sakura, being the kind of girl she is, jumps in trying to square up with these guys to protect her mans. Which is a little comical. But anyway, which sort of works out because these guys that work at the skate park come and they're like, you guys can't be back here, and they run away, so it's all good. He's not that badly hurt, thankfully. He just like has like a bruise on his face. So all in all, it was just a little bump in the road. Hiruto goes to compete and he does very well. Maybe it was because his girl was there cheering him on. He ends up winning the whole competition. He comes in first place, which is like a huge deal. And Sakura can finally relieve all that stress that she had for him. And as soon as it's announced that he wins, Sakura like faints. Sort of. Which Hiruto sees and runs over to her immediately, like scared, and so he picks her up to like go get medical attention, and he realizes that she's just sleeping. She's just asleep because she starts snoring, and he's like, that's my Sakura. It's like kind of a cute moment. Now, because Hiruto won this BMX competition thing, it is front page news in the local newspaper. Now, Ken-chan sees this and shows Tachibana like, oh my gosh, look, like it's Hiruto, he won, like, okay, that's Sakura's man, he out here doing shit. Tachibana takes the paper and looks at the headline, and it says, the eldest son of the president of the Okami Corporation has won the BMX competition or whatever. And Tachibana's like, huh, that's Choko-chan's father. And that's Choko-chan's last name, which apparently is also Hiruto's last name? Which means that Choko-chan and Hiruto are siblings. Now, obviously for the audience, this isn't a big deal. We kind of know through the context clues and stuff. But for the characters, it's kind of a big deal. Also, it makes him wonder why Hiruto would be hiding this. As things are going well with Hiruto and Sakura, he decides to go and check on Choko-chan to see how things are panning out with her and Tachibana. To which, you know, they're not panning out well. And she tells him that she was rejected by Tachibana. And Hiruto's just like, I don't even get what you like about that guy. Like, I've met him.
But clap if you've ever wanted to kill somebody.
And she reveals that she's had a crush on Tachibana since she was in middle school. Middle school. Mind you, now she's in her early 20s. That's a long time. Anyway, she says how when she was in middle school, she had like a crazy growth spurt and like all the guys would make fun of her and she was just not Miss Popular like you would think she would been. And that's around the time that she started going to see Tachibana, and he would always just cheer her up, and she felt like he was the only guy that could love her flaws and all. And I was like, girl, it was middle school. Give it some time. Middle school boys are not mature. Anyway, so that's why she's so in love with Tachibana. Now, Miki is tired of her mother-in-law because she's retired, so she's always home, and Miki's a housewife, so she's always home, and she just cannot handle this woman anymore, so she decides to look for a part-time job so that she can get out of the house. So she's looking, and because she's been a mother and a housewife for like 13 years, it's proving rather difficult to find a part-time job, because she really doesn't have any experience and stuff. Now, she's kind of bummed about this because she's been to interview after interview and she like hasn't gotten hired yet. So the girls decide to take her out and have a little fun, and Shima decides that it's a good idea to take them to a host bar after Miki meets a host named Masaomi? I think that's how you say his name. He is kind of, you know, he's trying to do the host thing and talk a little bit, but she just gets like super emotional because she's been having a shitty week and it's been a shitty couple of weeks, if anything, with all that's going on with her husband and then not being able to find a job. It's just been a lot for her, so she gets very emotional and she wants to leave. Now, as she leaves, she ends up leaving her resume behind, which Mososhi? I already forgot what his name was. He ends up picking it up and like keeping it for himself, realizing that she's looking for work. That'll come back and play later. But anyway, because the night is cut short, Sakura decides to go meet up with Hiroto. Now, Hiroto shows up first, which is not good considering that Tachibana is also there and decides to grill him about the whole you and Choko-chan are siblings thing, which is none of his business, but whatever. Hiroto doesn't lie. He says, well, yeah, we're siblings. What is he gonna do, lie when it was like on the front page of the newspaper? So Tachibana asks, like, well, does Sakura know about this? And Hiroto again does not lie, and he says no, she does not. And of course Tachibana is like, well, that's suspicious. Why wouldn't you tell your, you know, the girl that you're dating about this? And Hiroto simply is like, I'll tell her when I feel like it. Like, I'll tell her when it's the right time. Tachibana is like, that's weird that you wouldn't want to tell her that, considering she knows Choko-chan and like, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, but thankfully Sakura finally shows up swiftly enough to save Hiroto from any more of this very awkward and uncomfortable situation. Now, speaking of awkward and uncomfortable situations, Tachibana's mom is in town, and she's here to set him up on marriage dates. Now, I think if Tachibana wanted to be married, he could be, because he's hot and successful in his career, and yeah, so I don't think he needs any help, but I guess because he's like 40, his mom's like, we need to get the ball rolling, and you are too slow at rolling it. Anyway, the only way he thinks he can get out of these arranged marriage meetings is through having a girlfriend already. And I guess Sakura is the perfect match for that. I'm like, you know other women. Like, you have other co-workers that you could ask to do this, but no, he asked Sakura. And Sakura is very reluctant to pretend to be Tachibana's fake girlfriend for a few days while his mom's in town because of what Hiroto had brought up to her a few days prior about not wanting her to be around Tachibana so much because it makes him jealous. And she's trying to respect that. However, Tachibana is a longtime friend and he needs the help, and she's a good person, so she's like, okay, fine, I'll help you. I'll pretend to be your fake girlfriend or whatever. So she wears this outfit that Tachibana gave to her with these heels. She does her hair decently for once, and she shows up to this meeting with his mom. It's very awkward at first, but the mom seems rather impressed. Now, Tachibana's mom is kind of like a bit posh, if you will. You can tell she has a certain standard for everything, you know what I mean? She's like a little bit bougie, if you will. She seems like the kind of gal that's hard to impress. So this is gonna be, well, Tachibana thinks this is gonna be difficult. They go to like this restaurant that his mom picks out, and Sakura decides to go to the dentist earlier that day, so her mouth is like half frozen. Which adds for some comedic scenes of food and drinks and stuff falling out of her mouth because she can't feel it. Because Sakura is clumsy and just being hilarious the entire time, the mom can't hold it in and bursts out laughing finally, which is a good sign because she approves of the relationship between them, as she thinks Sakura is a great girl and she's not too serious and she's funny and beautiful. So she approves of their relationship. Now, while things are going very well on Sakura's fake date with Tachibana, things are not going quite as good for Hiroto as he goes back to his family home to see Choko-chan and was not expecting his parents to be there. And so he is invited yet again to eat with them, and he accepts this time because it kind of feels like he can't deny this time. Now, Choko-chan seems to be the only one ever on his side, although it doesn't seem like his mom hates him. But Choko-chan, seeing the tension between Hiroto and his dad, tries to lighten the mood on things a little bit and brings up the BMX competition that he just won. And the dad doesn't really seem to care. If anything, it just brings up the whole, when are you gonna stop, you know, goofing around and get serious with your life and get a real job, which, by the way, the BMX thing is not his job. He does have an actual job. He works night shifts specifically. That's why we never see him working during the day. And so because his dad brings up working at the family company, Hiroto kind of takes a second and is like, can I think about it? Which shocks his father because his dad clearly never thought that he would actually ever want to work at the family business, which is, like we said before, a huge corporation of some sort. So after their awkward lunch with their family, Choko-chan and Hiroto go to a cafe for coffee and cake or whatever, and Choko-chan asks him, like, are you serious about wanting to work at dad's company? And he tries to downplay it by saying that it sucks to go on dates and then have to go to work afterwards because he works nights. And if he worked at the office, then he wouldn't have to do that. But Choko-chan realizes it's more than just that. And she's starting to realize, like, he's very serious about Sakura at this point because he's even willing to change up his career, if you will, for her. This very much annoys Choko-chan because she sees Sakura as competition. She feels like Tachibana is being taken away from her by Sakura, and now the only other person in her life that she's close to and cares about, being Hiroto, is also being taken away by Sakura. So she feels like she's losing to this woman again. He asked Choko-chan to keep the whole him starting to date Sakura for the sake of Choko-chan getting with Tachibana thing a secret, because he doesn't want it to ruin what they have. He doesn't want Sakura to ever find out about that. Which is fair, but this just pisses off Choko-chan because she's like, are you kidding me? This girl is starting to take everything that she wants to be hers. This pisses her off, and she says that maybe he only wants to be with Sakura because he has mommy issues.
I mean, where's the lie, though?
Anyway, she gets up in rage, ends up breaking a glass while they're at a restaurant, and she runs out. And as she runs out of the cafe, she bumps into Tachibana and Sakura and Tachibana's mom while they're all on their fake date, which is super awkward. And Sakura knows that Choko-chan likes Tachibana, so this is like very awkward, and Tachibana obviously knows that she likes her, and it's like talk about a nail in the coffin. Like, I felt kind of bad for Choko-chan in that scenario. Now, Hiroto, who's still in the cafe, also sees them out the window, but he doesn't want to go out because he doesn't want them to know that he was with Choko-chan. But Tachibana and him make eye contact. And when I tell you Hiroto is not happy about whatever he's seeing out the window, he's not happy about it. He's very jealous. And that little interaction for like 3 seconds between them and Choko-chan makes Sakura feel like she shouldn't be putting up this ruse anymore, and she just like can't do it. Out of respect for Hiroto and Choko-chan, she's like, I can't lie anymore. So she reveals the truth to Tachibana's mom, like, okay, I'm just pretending to be his girlfriend, I'm not, I actually have a boyfriend, and blah blah blah. And of course, Tachibana's mom was not fooled at all, because apparently Sakura is not the kind of girl that Tachibana usually goes for, so she didn't believe it to begin with. But she still very much likes Sakura, so they end up going to karaoke and having a lot of fun, And yeah, everything kind of works out in the end. Later, Hiroto goes over to Sakura's place and he runs into Tachibana on his way up. Tachibana thinks this is a marvelous time to bring up the fact that he was hiding from Sakura at the cafe, which he was, but also it's none of your business. But Tachibana is like, you must be hiding something more than just a sibling relationship because you're literally hiding from her. Like, why would you do that? It's not that big of a deal. So obviously there's something more to it. This pisses off Hiroto, obviously, and he's already jealous and annoyed at the whole situation, so he ends up saying something he really shouldn't have said. He basically says that it's Tachibana's fault that things have to be this way, because if he hadn't rejected Choco-chan, then things wouldn't be like this. And he says that Choco-chan is, you know, jealous of Sakura. And Tachibana is so confused. He's like, what? And the wheels start turning in his head, and he realizes the whole reason Hiroto started dating Sakura was for the sake of Choco-chan. And Tachibana gets mad. He's like, you can never tell Sakura this, because Tachibana obviously knows how much she likes Hiroto now. And even though he's obviously never going to tell Sakura this, he just is annoyed with Tachibana and says that it's none of his business and to leave him alone.